So Kadamba lineage. Kadamba lineage. Kadamba lineage means the lineage coming from Atisha. And that lineage coming from Atisha is called Kadamba. 2 words, Ka, Damba. Ka is the word and teaching of the Buddha. Damba is instruction, the instructive words of the Buddha. So this lineage coming from Atisha is called Kadamba because one of the fundamental thinking of Tsongkhapa and then Domtamba and all his follower Kadamba masters is that all the words and teachings of the Buddha should be seen as instructions, and we should not ignore any of these words and teachings of the Buddha. So therefore this is called Kadamba. Okay? So Kadambas are a group of practitioners and followers whose lifestyle is very simple, very practical. They don't have too many deities. Kadam Lachu Dundin. That means Kadambas have 4 deities and 3 teachings, 3 dharmas. 7. 4 deities and 3 teachings. 3 teachings means the 3 Pitakas, which are the words of the Buddha. And the 4 deities are the founder of the Buddhist teaching, Buddha, and the representation of compassion of all the Buddhas, Avalokiteshvara, and the embodiment of sublime activities of all the Buddhas is Tara Devi, and then the wrathful deity called Miyowa Achala. These 4 deities. If any of these days, if you come to visit my institute in Dharamsala Library, I have recently painted, not me, I have commissioned to paint a Thanka of these 4 deities. Okay? Kadam Lashi, Lachudundin. So therefore they are called Kadambas. And even if Kadambas of course practice Tantra, but outwardly they will never show that they are doing Tantric practice. And it said some of these Kadamba masters, it's only after their death they will discover that they have been using some of these Tantric ritual implements like Vajra and bell, not while they are alive. So they are very famously known in terms of their pure conduct, leading from Atisha. So that lineage is there with Gampopa. Then he of course is the lineage holder, almost like founder of the Chakdachembo lineage. Almost like founder. But the founder of course is the Chakdachembo lineage comes from Buddha, then through Marva, and then Milarepa also. But it is Gampopa who widely proclaimed this Mahamudra lineage. The usage of the word Mahamudra came very popular from the Gampopa, Tapulhaji. You know Mahamudra? What is Mahamudra? Maha, you know, right? Great. Mudra is what? Seal. So what is Mahamudra? 4 seals. It's very complex how to practice it. That I'm not an expert on that. But you should at least know what is Mahamudra, okay? Otherwise later on you'll say, oh, Geshe Lakdola didn't explain this. So Mahamudra means basically they are Mahamudra in the sense of Sutra, Mahamudra in the sense of Tantra. So we'll speak only in terms of the Sutra. Now in terms of Sutra, Mahamudra means, you know the 4 seals, right? 4 seals, 4 mudras, 4 seals. What the hena? From among these 4 seals, Shunyata is called Mahamudra. Emptiness. The other 3, impermanence, what are the 4 seals? All conditioned things are impermanent. All contaminated things lead to suffering. All phenomena are selfless, empty. Nirvana is peace. So out of these 4, only emptiness is called Mahamudra. Others are mudras. They are seals, but not Maha seals or Mahamudra. Because they don't encompass or cover all phenomena. Emptiness is the ultimate nature of all phenomena, therefore it's called Mahamudra. Pata chal gaya na, Mahamudra, so simple. Easy, huh? Okay, so that's the Sutric explanation, and Gampopa did this explanation based on some Sutric teachings. And Gampopa is said to be such a great teacher that he is actually prophesied by Buddha in many of the sutras. Okay. So first, when we say Namo Ratana Guru, this is Sanskrit, Namo Ratana Guru. This is a style of most of the Tibetan texts, especially all those texts which have been translated from Indian sources like Sanskrit primarily, then maybe Pali, but primarily Sanskrit. They all have this title. The text starts with an Indian, few lines of, Sanskrit or Indian words, like Arshtasasrika Paramita, things like that. If you open that, then it says, in the Indian language, Arya Ashtasasrika Paramita. In the Tibetan language, 400 verses or 800 verses, whatever. Now this is said, if it is a translation, then this must be there. This is to show the authenticity of the teaching. That is, its origin is from India and not composed by some not so knowledgeable Tibetans or whatever, to show the authenticity. Second purpose is to thank and be grateful to the team of translators, Indian and Tibetan translators. Normally all the translations were done together by Indian scholar and Tibetan scholar. So they have normally it goes through three processes. Initial proofreader, who does the initial correction, then goes to the middle, proofreader, then goes to the final proofreader, the great proofreader. He will just glance through it quickly to see whether any major mistakes are there or not. But it's basically down from the two levels. Okay, so this is basically done with the team of scholars. So had these texts have not been translated into Tibetan, it's all Ashtasasrika Paramita and all the rest Sanskrit, terms, Tibetans will not be able to read it at all. So it's due to the kindness of these great translators that Tibetans now I can proudly read this and explain it to you because of these translators. So to remember the kindness of translators, we use this so much so that this is actually written by Gampopa, a Tibetan. He wrote it in Tibetan. It's not translated from Sanskrit. But this is to show that although this is not translated from a Sanskrit source, but this is equally good as a text translated from Sanskrit. So if you read this 37 Bodhisattva practices, it starts with these Sanskrit lines. This one also, Namo Ratana Guru. Namo means paying homage. Paying homage is important. It's a very important Buddhist tradition that whatever you do, you should be thankful to the teachers, to the parents, to all those who had helped you. Pay homage. In other words, in your life, you should be humble. That's the message. I pay homage. Homage to Ratana Guru. Namo means paying homage. The purpose is when you pay homage, when you bow down, when you remain humble, you become receptive. If you are not humble or arrogant, and then you'll start thinking, I know everything, I don't need to listen to anybody. Right? So that is a great risk to learn anything if you're arrogant. So never become arrogant, bow down, pay homage. Namo. Paying homage physically, paying homage verbally, and more importantly, paying homage mentally. Even if you bow down physically and verbally recite some nice mantras, but mentally you are cautioning the teacher or whatever, then it's not proper paying homage. Homage. Homage to whom? Homage to the Guru, who is really like a precious jewel. Ratna Guru. Just as you can get lot of things done if you have the money or if you have the Ratna or gems or whatever. These days dollars or pounds or whatever. Right? So similarly, it is the Guru who guides you on the path to nirvana, to liberation. Guru, the Sanskrit word gu and ru. Guru is a combination of two words. Gu means ignorance. Ru means remover. So the real Guru is somebody who removes your ignorance. Right? And the word Guru also has this connotation of heaviness. Heaviness. The meaning Guru is somebody who is heavily laden with knowledges, qualifications, and is very grateful to you. So you pay homage to such Ratna Guru. That is what Gampopa does in the beginning. And this you should do because you should see Guru as the source of your temporary well-being and happiness, long-term well-being and happiness. So paying homage, bowing down is very, very important. Very, very important. That means observing low status, being humble is actually the step to higher throne, step to success. One of the Kadamba masters talks about the importance of being humble. He says, you should see yourself, whether the beautiful green grasses and flowers grow more down in the valley or on the exposed top of a mountain. If you become arrogant and remain like the exposed top of a mountain, there's not much room for growing these higher qualities. But if you become like those valleys down, then there's room for growing these spiritual qualities, which is like flowers and the green grasses. So it's very, very, very important. Because this way you are reducing, deflating your arrogance, your self-grasping. Self-grasping, which we'll talk much later on, self-grasping is really source of many of the modern physical illnesses and sicknesses also. I, me and mine. People who make a lot of self-references, I, me and mine, are prone to all kind of illnesses, including heart attack. This is now scientifically proved. Why? Because when you make too much references to I, me and mine, you are narrowing down your scope of thinking. You are only thinking. You are looking through a tunnel. Small tunnel. When you look through a small tunnel, you can see what is there in front of that tunnel, not anything outside of that. Then if there is a little problem, you tend to see it as if it is unsurmountable. Then you get all kinds of diseases and problems. But if you look from a larger perspective, not just bogged down with your personal problems, difficulties, then, of course, you have the problem. But you realize that it's not just me. There's so many hundreds and millions of people are suffering right now. And hundreds and thousands of these people are suffering much, much more than you. So when you look, see things in that perspective, then say, yes, I'm suffering, but I'm really lucky. I'm suffering, but I have some problem, illness, but I'm in bed, I'm in a free country. So I can go easily without any problem and see some of these doctors. Go to the Tibetan doctor, go to the Indian doctor, things like that. That your mental attitude changes everything. Makes huge difference when you see from a larger perspective. When you just see with this narrow, tunnel vision, then you're not able to tolerate any problem. And then you start thinking that I am the only miserable fellow suffering right now, which is not true at all. Right? Okay. So humility is very important. Then he says, adorned with the pure conduct of the precious kaju, you help us traverse the ocean of samsara, so terrifying and difficult to cross. So this is what he's mentioning right in the beginning. Adorned with the pure conduct of the precious kaju. Meaning that if you want to get liberated from this terrifying and difficult samsara, you need to follow the footsteps of this precious kaju lineage. Kaju now here is not only the kaju of the four sects, but this is called kaju because it has the Kadamba lineage and also Mahamudra lineage. Both the teachings of the Kadamba and both Kadamba and Chakchi, also teaching Ka. These two, it can refer to both of these. So where I already mentioned the Kadambas and thereby the Gampopa and other practitioners of the Mahamudra lineage, they observe such a pure conduct. So it is this pure conduct of this precious lineage of the Kaju that these great masters can help you cross the ocean of samsara. And what is this ocean of samsara? Why this is compared to ocean? Because if you are to cross an ocean, you need to make sure that you have a really nice ship or boat, which is not tossed around easily by wind. It should be very strong, well prepared, right? So we are like that right now. In the samsara, we are tossed around by the three types of suffering. What are the three types of suffering? Conditioned suffering. Conditioned suffering is like the ocean, almost like endless, limitless ocean in which you are there. You are in the samsara. We need to realize this. You are in the samsara. And then, in addition to this basic, all-pervading nature of conditioned suffering, you also have the suffering of change, which is really like not only ocean, but the ocean is fluctuating. There's a lot of problems. And then you have the suffering of suffering, which is like big torrential waves rising up and down. Like in our case, we have this ceaseless emotional waves in our life. Right? So now, for example, if you look at the present situation also, samsara is not a particular place. Samsara is your psychophysical existence. Normally people who don't understand, they say that if there's a lot of family problem, then they say, oh, now I'm in the samsara, I have to look after all these small kids, do the house chores and all those things. Then we say, I'm son. No, not in that sense. Samsara basically means the psychophysical aggregate, which is conditioned by negative emotions and contaminated actions. And because of the influence of these negative emotions and contaminated actions, you are helplessly, in that sense you are helplessly tossed around in this life. Now, don't just read the text. Whether this is true or not, we should see, relating it to our own life, you see. We go hither and thither, meet these people, their people, do this job, that job, seeking for some happiness and peace. Not easy to get it. I'm not saying you don't get it. I'm also not saying your life is full of suffering, nothing else. I'm not saying that. And also don't think Buddha is saying that. Buddha is highlighting the suffering because it is that suffering which is bothering us. It is suffering that has to be eliminated. Therefore, he is making a lot of emphasis on that. But he is not saying that your life is full of suffering and you have no happiness at all. Happiness bhi hai na, but the happiness we have is not very deep, not very profound, not very reliable. So he is saying that, I am not saying you don't have any happiness right now. You have happiness, but it's ephemeral, it is fleeting. What you want to get is the reliable, long-lasting happiness. So go for that. Go inside your mind, transform it, then you will get it. Not just chasing the sensual objects. That's the thing. As I already mentioned, today we all say, I'm busy, basically chasing the sensual objects. Something beautiful to look at, something tasty to taste. Then because the result of that endless chasing, for example, the tasty food, then you get diabetes, hypertension, everything, because what you get from the market is all packaged food with added salt, sodium, added sugar. Imagine, for example, you take the example of sugar. Even if you are somebody who takes minimum tea, you will have breakfast, tea. Then we had tea right now. Then 3 o'clock you have tea. Then in the evening you have tea. In between there will be biscuits. In between there will be some, chocolates and other things. So you add up so much sugar, which is not good for your health. This is just one example, right? Just one example. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, we are leading such an artificial life. That's why they use the word artificial intelligence, which is good. So many artificial things are coming. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, metaverse, and what else? So many other things are coming. I'm not saying they are of no use at all, because I'm a layman, I don't know the depth of all these things. But to a great extent, they will help you create more illusions. The Buddhist teaching says, you are tired today because you have been chasing the illusions. You thought mirage is water. You chased it, then finally you don't find it. It's only a reflection of the sun in the desert. So I'm really not trying to turn the clock back. No, I'm not trying to be cynical. I'm not saying everything is bad. But if you really look carefully for your long-term happiness and peace, then I strongly feel that much of the so-called modern inventions are distractions at the end of the day. They are all distractions. Because we all want a place where we get distracted. There was a Tibetan teacher in ancient times. So he told his student, are you really practicing? Are you really studying Dharma? The student said, yes sir, I'm studying, I'm practicing. He said, don't tell lie. Because I saw you remain distracted in the day, and I saw you sleeping in the night. So when you get time to practice Dharma, this is it. This is our normal kind of nature. Now in addition to that, so many shiny gadgets and other things came up, other things flooding the market. You are completely carried away by this external environment. There's what we call as peer pressure, especially young people, peer pressure. Everybody thinks, I should know the latest thing, what is happening in the world. If I don't know that, they will count me as a stupid fellow, moving behind the time. So you try to catch up with all those things, most of which are nonsense, useless, completely. So now think how much time you have to do Dharma practice. You make a budget of your time, not just your money. Make a budget of your time. When do you get up? What do you do? When do you have breakfast? How much time it takes? Then lunch, how much time it takes? Then in between you get distracted. Par ying, sur ying, ying malam la misese. You see, this is the I wish you all understand Tibetan, I have been requesting Deer Park make everybody understand the Tibetan language since the last many years. Look at this, the rhythm, the Tibetan. Far ying, su ying, ying malam la mizasi. That means you distracted here, you distracted there, and in this state of distraction, your life comes to an end. Absolutely true. We may not be able to spend, complete time, just like Milarepa and other things, to completely devote time for practice, but you must, as I said, budget your time. And in order to be able to do that, you need to reflect very strongly about impermanence. How much time you have to do Dharma practice? If this is your last day, appreciate the good things you have. Don't keep on complaining, things like that. Then there was an elderly Russian lady in the front row. She got up and said, Geshe-la, thank you for your talk, but I'm an old Russian lady living alone, nothing to appreciate. I have nothing much to be happy to appreciate. So can you explain? I said, I'm sorry if you have nobody supporting you alone, but I see many good things you have, which you should appreciate. Then she was looking at me with great surprise. Then I said, you have both the eyes intact. Of course, she acknowledged. Both hands intact, both the legs intact. We never think about this. We never appreciate what we have. Imagine if you are blind today, or lost one of your eyes, or one of your legs, one of your hands. What will you do then? Now we have all these things we are not able to appreciate, and we are not able to use it properly. We use it in the wrong way. You use your features, your capacities in the wrong way. Your eye for wrong things, your hands for wrong things, your legs for wrong things. So number one, you should appreciate all these great things you have. Then use it for beneficial, helpful purposes. Because it is not sure when you are going to remain like this for so long. I wish that we remain like this. But sooner or later things will change. And we have as human beings, we have such a great potential, such a great resource. In Buddhism, we call this human life precious human life. We call this human life precious human life not because we have great physical agility like monkeys. We can't jump from one tree to another tree. Also, we don't have wings like the birds to fly. But with this great human intelligence, we can fly like birds with aeroplane. Things like that, right? As I already mentioned. But we are unfortunately not recognizing this great human potential and misusing it most of the time. Even Einstein, the great scientist, he acknowledged that he could not use his brain more than 5 or something percentage. And he said, if I'm able to use this human brain to a little bit greater percentage, I can do all kind of miracles in this world. And in the Buddhistic terms, making miracles is not so much about flying or opening a third eye or making yourself, invisible. That's not surprising, even if you're able to do it. I'm not surprised at all. But if you reduce your negative emotion, if you reduce the intensity of your anger, that is a miracle. And that miracle you can achieve. That's a miracle because you are able to completely transform your mind and become happier and more peaceful. That's a real miracle, beneficial miracle. That we can do it. Right? So therefore it is really important to appreciate. In Buddhism we call it, all of us, even the sentient beings, we say all of us have the Buddha nature. The capacity to become Buddha. Buddha means not just one person. Buddha means somebody who is completely enlightened, peaceful, without suffering. Now whether this is actually possible or not possible, we can also discuss. It's not that easy to understand. But one thing that we can understand is if we make the effort, we can definitely lessen our suffering. We can definitely improve our happiness. That is the question. The question is not so much that one day you'll become Buddha, completely enlightened. That's very difficult for us to understand. So here what is important for you to understand is there is a difference between the external material objects and internal human mind. In the case of external material objects, the material physical things by definition are material physical. So therefore, however much you manipulate them, use them, there is a limitation. At least, especially on the grosser level. But in the case of human mind, you can, make limitless progress. For example, in the case of water, if you boil it, it will become hotter and hotter, right? And then gradually, 100 degrees centigrade, right? That's the boiling point. And still heat it, then what will happen? I don't think it will become hotter. It will disappear into steam or vapor. Human mind is not like that. The greatness of human mind is the more you train, the more it can develop. Have you met anybody who said, I did my mind training many, many times, now I can't make any progress? Maybe illness and other things may be there, but otherwise, Einstein never said that I learned everything. Right? So that's good news. So therefore, again, the point that is being made here is don't pay too much emphasis for physical development, but for mental development. Do more mental exercise than physical exercise. Physical exercise is important, I acknowledge that, because the grosser mind is dependent on the body, that's important. Yoga and all these things are important. But do more mental exercise, do more mental jogging. And much of the problem that you see in the world today is a clear indication of a starvation of human mind. Result of impoverished human mind. Our thinking is egoistic, selfish, narrow-minded, dividing, you see. So therefore it is important to expand the reach of this human mind, transform it to a limitless quality. And transform it so that you are gradually able to realize that shunyata or emptiness. When Buddha was asked, what is shunyata? How can you explain shunyata? The Buddha said, realizing the shunyata is like realizing space. For example, if you meditate on space, what happens to your mind? Your mind will not become restricted, constricted. Because space is not constricted, it's not limited. Your mind will not be suffocating, right? Your mind will merge with that space. And then when with that expansion, there is limitless room for development, scope for development, progress. So when you meditate on shunyata, the grasping, the restricting experience that we had earlier, all will disappear. Because normally we get obsessed and bogged down with one object, And with that your mind also gets restricted. Now when you meditate on shunyata, your mind becomes completely free, nothing to hold. This is Buddhist explanation. And I was reading one very interesting article. And I found a very good example how this concept of shunyata is useful. That writer didn't talk about shunyata, but it's basically the same thing if you understand the ultimate nature of reality. And he gives a beautiful example by saying that the birds that fly in the space, take the example of one bird flies up and down in the same space all the time. They fly all the time. But do they make a decision to make a nest somewhere? Do they? Why? Huh? There's always? No. Why they don't decide to make nest somewhere in the space? Exactly. There's nothing to grasp. But still they can enjoy, fly. It's not restricting. The birds will never say, okay, this is my area, don't fly here, The human beings are saying. Human beings are making this demarcation, right? But naturally, space, shunyata, they give that space. So it's like that. Then you don't get obsessed with one object, that I'll stay here, I'll make my nest here. Okay? Adorned with the pure conduct of the precious Kaju lineage. So the main point that I should explain here is pure conduct. Pure conduct. If I use the modern language, then it's like the ethics, which is so crucial. If we are to preserve the human civilization, if we are to preserve the human culture, the one quality which is inevitable is morality, human conduct. In Buddhist teachings, morality has been compared as the ground. It's because of the presence of the ground that you can walk, I can construct my house. Things like that. Without the ground, nothing can stand. So when you have this, the morality, the pure conduct, then you can concentrate. Then you can reason things out, analytical meditation. Right? So this moral conduct, ethical discipline is extremely important. Now when we use the word ethics or moral conduct, we are not talking about observing any discipline imposed upon you by some external force. That's not morality in the true sense of the term. In Buddhism, morality means three things. One, don't harm others. That's good conduct, pure conduct. Don't harm others. Right? Or in other words, we can say like this, refrain from all the negative deeds. Refrain from all the negative deeds. Cultivate all the positive deeds. And then finally, help other sentient beings. So these three, if you practice these three, you will become a good practitioner of ethics and morality. Now if you undertake such a practice, you don't develop any negative things, you cultivate all the positive things and help others as much possible, then your life will be happy, you will be very happy, you will be peaceful, your mind will be without turbulence, without regret, without fear. When your mind is free from turbulence, fear and so forth, then you can concentrate. How can you concentrate when you are angry? When you have excessive attachment and things like that. Right? How can you analyze things, reason things out when your mind is turbulent? So therefore, it is said that morality or pure conduct is really like a ground in which everything, all the positive qualities can, stand. Okay? So therefore, this Kaju lineage is especially important because of this pure conduct. Adorned with the pure conduct of the precious Kaju, you help us traverse the ocean of samsara, so terrifying and difficult to cross. Difficult to cross. Samsara, we can easily say samsara is bad, but we want to live in the samsara, no? We normally say samsara is bad. But at the same time, we fear death, right? When you fear death, it means you want to live. Live where? Live where? In the samsara. So that means when you say, I don't want to die, it means you want to live in the samsara. In our heart of hearts, we are really saying, so far samsara is quite good. You may not acknowledge it, but that is what you are thinking. That's why we are scared of death. We are fond of staying in the samsara because we don't know the damage that is being done in this samsaric environment. Right? So samsara, as I mentioned, is basically your psychophysical existence. This present psychophysical existence of yours is propelled and projected primarily by negative emotions and contaminated actions. So long as it's a result of these negative emotions and contaminated actions, you cannot have happiness, long-lasting happiness. Right? Okay. So just like when one is, passing through a turbulent sea, then somebody who is really a good driver of that ship or boat, you can cross that ocean. So similarly, we need to depend on these great masters who are like the experts, in showing us how to cross this samsara. Your stream of blessings is as inexhaustibly immense as the expanse of great ocean, and your aspirations are vast, enduring, and spontaneously accomplished. Your stream of blessings is inexhaustibly immense. Your stream of blessings here basically means the blessing and the lineage coming from the Mahamudra. And if you listen to this great lineage of Mahamudra, and then you can receive that blessing by systematically receiving the various stages of initiations, empowerments. And if you do that, then there will be inexhaustibly immense. They will never come to an end. But so that's very much dependent upon your practice. And that stream of blessing or lineage is not polluted by the self-grasping. So therefore it is really like a great ocean, inexhaustible. And even if continues to shower that blessing to countless sentient beings, it will never come to an end. So this shows that if you undertake this practice, then you develop certain realization which will be able to liberate yourself, and when you develop compassion, you will also be able to liberate others. So therefore, while you continuously maintain that practice, it is also important to make wishful prayers. Prayers are like the Gampopa said, rein of a horse, which can show you in the right direction. So in Buddhist practice, as I said, the practice has to be physical, verbal, mental. We need to recite mantras, we need to have wishful prayers, we need to do prostrations, which shows complete involvement. And in the case of recitation of mantras also, many of these mantras, they are, products of long aspirations of great beings. These mantras are like formulas, scientific formulas. So by understanding the meaning, if you recite, they are very, very powerful. Okay? All noble masters of the flawless practice lineage, I bow before you, be my refuge and grant your blessing. Be my refuge. Be my refuge. You take refuge in somebody who can protect you. Right now it is raining, so we take refuge in umbrella. So don't think this is a strange practice in Buddhism. It's in the human nature that when you are in trouble, you seek help of somebody. At 12 o'clock we take refuge in lunch. Right? So here in this case we are not taking refuge for physical, removing physical problems or things like that. We are really talking about, removing the mental defilements. So there you need to take refuge in somebody who has that practice, who has that realization, who can guide you. So therefore, finding the right teacher is also very important, which we'll discuss later on. My refuge and grant your blessings. Grant your blessings. Now this does not mean to say that you should repeat and say that I take refuge in you, please bless me. Then the Lama says, okay, just crane your neck, I'll bless you, put his hand on your head. No. If you want to do that, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay in the sense, number one, even if the so-called Lama has no power, but because of your devotion and faith, it is useful for you. You see, in that sense. But the Lama may have nothing, really. It's your mental age. It's like meeting your long-lost friend, You really feel happy. So your mental attitude plays a very significant, important role. And especially the Lama is somebody who has that capacity. It is useful. But at the same time, do not mix this with blind faith, thinking that, if I have the Lama's hand touch on my head, boom, there will be enlightenment, nirvana, or nothing like that. And especially Lamas, whoever who pretend that they can heal you with the touch of hand, most of them are hypocrite. That's why in Buddhism it is strongly prohibited to show any miraculous power, even if you have. Prohibited in Buddhism. Now forgive me to say this, in today's world I don't think there are any Lama who can show that genuine miracle. And unfortunately many of them are fake. Sorry to say that. You will read later on in the text also, many of the Lamas, they talk about maintaining like leading an impoverished life, don't go after material things, but they themselves are wallowing in wealth. They live like kings, many of them. I am strongly against it. I am not jealous of it because I don't have it. I can also have it if I want. But fortunately, unfortunately, I am brought in such a circumstance, I never craved for that. I'm just used with living this very ordinary way of life, so I'm happy with that. I'm not able to follow exactly like Milarepa, but I always say that the goodness with Milarepa and Buddha's way of life is that with the minimum of so-called material facilities, actually you will be happier. You don't have to worry about income tax. You don't have to worry about robbers and thieves, all this income tax so-called are actually thieves. Now these days you are really not sure that actually even the hard-earned money that you have, Whether you will really be able to use it or not, it's very questionable these days. Even if you say it is in the bank, So this is the reality in which we are living. But we don't, even if you don't want to criticize, it's okay. But make sure that you are able to discriminate between the right teacher from the wrong teacher. They teach simplicity, all these things. And then oneself living like a king, moving in the most fanciest, latest vehicles, carrying the most expensive mobile phone. Even mobile phone is not a big thing, it's small, but still, you see. So this is sign of degeneration of Buddha's teaching. And then they hardly give any proper teaching. They always give initiation. We are stupid, people like us. We say, oh, he is going to give it. The empowerment was so powerful. What do you mean by powerful? You close your eye and the Lama is murmuring something, turning the pages, and then bring all this ritual instrument. Exercising, if somebody has the power to exercise anything, then that Lama should help in exercising the negative emotions within all of us. They hardly talk about removing the negative emotions, they talk about removing the external spirit. You are harmed by this spirit, you are harmed by that spirit. You are reincarnation of this person, you are reincarnation of that person. When you yourself don't know from where you came from, how are you talking about reincarnation of somebody else? I'm really very, very skeptical about all these things.